Okay, so I know I'm kind of late for this episode, right? But this was actually on a recent project. Like this is still considered on a recent project. There's a lot of people involved with this, but it is a remix, and came out July 26th, which I think July 20th, a little late on. So this includes two British songwriters, the UK. Well, two British songwriters, musicians. The first the irony in that is the first person is Cat Burns. I think referentially I've talked about Cat Burns before and her song Go. And Go it's a unique song about people that fall apart because of cheating allegations. I think that's kind of amazing to me. And Mahlia, I believe this is her version of this song. And I've never seen two artists, especially two British artists, that seem to connect the way they do in this song, right? Like they kind of play off each other vocally, because there's a lot of details behind this, and then everything seems to kind of flow. So this is my first Mahlia track, and then I've heard Cat Burns before, as I said, her song Go, and on the album where she was doing remixes. So I'm not very new to this. I've heard some of these before. So Mahlia starts it off by saying, "Are you? And I think this in my mind set up the whole tone of how this song was gonna go. And roughly it's a weird song, right? So she says, "I'm done living in places where I recognize too many faces I'd rather leave behind." And to me, this sums it up as I'm living in my present or in my future, and I'm not too focused on places I've been in my past, because I'd rather leave those memories and stuff behind. People who see me in the street and not say hi, but then see some success, so they call me, which I think this is a weird thing where, like, it's fame and mainstream, or you have some fame to yourself, right? Where there are a lot of people, and the stereotype is represented kind of weirdly. I think if we go to the States, or we go to the United States and look at places that do this, the most common stereotype is New York. How New York isn't very friendly to people. And one could argue that that's not exactly the case. And so that's what I'm getting from that perspective. But also, I've seen a lot of celebrity interviews, and I've seen people on BBC, on the states like that do the Good Night America and stuff like that. We've seen, or Saturday Night Live, we've seen it where they say that for some reason, when they get a certain amount of fame, people call them for favors that they don't remember, or favors that they never did, or people that they were never really close with before they had some fame to them. And then the first line they talk about is, "Oh, they're so impressed that you made it this far, you did it." Which is weird. I do think that's weird, but I think it's a weird thing. I'll talk about that at the end. But she says, "Tell me that they're impressed and they want part of it." And you're like, "Part of what?" "I did this with X amount of people." Which a lot of artists do when they're starting to come up to the mainstream, or when they're breaking mainstream or underground, right? They they're part they kind of want part of something that they had no had really no hand in creating, or the name, the character, they have nope, they want part of it that they didn't have, like, or like a silly nickname that they teased you with, you used it, kind of reinvented the name or some way, and then came out with your artist name, right? And they're like, oh, well, we want part of it because we helped you with it, right? And that's exactly putting in the work and the hours for that person to break the mainstream, or a group of people to make the mainstream. She says, well, I don't want your number or your company. Like, we were never close to begin with before I made the money, and I don't want your company now, which is what I would say to the United States, or people in the States. I think you kind of have to move out of places that you aren't really aware of, like situations where you make it big and you stay in certain areas that money funnels down or money is heavily involved in. You might want to move, because sometimes you will get robbed for the money that you don't give to somebody, which I think that's another thing. You got to be able to want to leave wherever you came from when you make that money, because you're known and people know you and people know the folks that you're, and that's why I'm going to be the first one. And then she ends up with, that's why I'm going to be the first one to leave your party for the club. Yeah. And it's a weird thing. So this buzz thing, and it's very kind of hard for me to explain, because her chorus is fun, but it's very, it's very, it says bud, and I think people have different interpretations of what bud means, but bud kind of means like brother, buddy. I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure I get that clear, because it says bottle full of bud, and or stuff like that, and it's a weird thing. So that's because you made a mess and it can't be undone, as in somehow you broke our relationship or our connection, and I no longer want to fix it. Because she says in her few lines later, I ain't into making up, I'm into making friends, which you can take your hugs, and you can take your hugs, you can take it. But don't come find me in a club. Don't come find me in a club because I'm popping bottles, or it's a weird thing. And she says, I'm into making millions, which I love, like that mindset of trying to make millions. But I have a love and hate relationship with that line, with lines that go, I'm into making millions. Like profit is the goal of, yes, anything you want to do. However, money shouldn't be the thing you try to thrive for. You really, you shouldn't do it that way. But I get the message. And then her, Cat Burns, and her do this song where Cat Burns goes, I keep my circle small. 6 friends. They were all with me throughout the whole process of me making it to where I am now. Well, that's what I'm referring to, is when she says, made it through what they were with me through all of it, through the thick, the thin, and isn't they have that connection or that focus of, okay, we're going to help so-and-so become what we want to be. Which I think is a great thing. They don't care about she says the grits, the glams. No, they don't care. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care for none of it, which I think it's a weird thing. And I know people are like, well, you should always want credit for things that you do, but there are just certain things you don't want credit for, royalties for, stuff like that. And that's understandable, right? Like, you want to be able to say, hey, I did this because it felt good to do. And they say, no, Instagram, we don't care for none of it. It's a heavy line is a heavy line to listen to, and the only reason is to say that is because we live in a world where there are people that are trying to get more likes than somebody or one of their friends. Like, likes have controlled people's opinions on themselves and sometimes how they view their friends, right? And I think in that culture, not necessarily that I hate, not necessarily that I hate it or that I love it. I just think when you have a group of friends that you've gone through a lot of things with, it's very hard for y'all to get very like into like a media or believe you're better than the other person, which that's not entirely true. You know, and it's the Sixth Sense, which is funny to me because it's always like one of those senses that pick up like something like bad will or bad intentions, and you're like, yeah, yeah, that's not for me. And that's just kind of what that's this song in itself is. I like this song. I do like this song more than I think I've liked a lot of songs recently. It's definitely you either love it or you hate it. But going into it, I would definitely give it 2 tries before you make your own opinion. Mahlia does this bridge at the very end, which I do love. She says, "Love you." Wait, she says, "Leave you, leave you." I don't believe you. No matter what you say, that don't make us equal. Right? Where there's a certain time, and Cat Burns did it in Go, and is doing it in the club remix that she did in the club, the original version, where she just like, we've grown a bond, right? But there, at a certain point, if we're in that bond and I don't trust you, I did nothing wrong to mistreat you, and there's no ill will on my side, and it just seems like you just keep lying to me or something. Then there's no reason for us to be that connected or that bond to still be there if you're gonna keep lying to me, which I do. Which I'm saying I do like the meaning behind the song is great. The beat, their voices, vocally, this is great. I think it's hard to argue that vocally they're not, because in this remix it is great. I'm not sure if this is a single for something, but this is kind of one of those songs where I do like it. I think there are, if I'm right, if I'm right, in the club is from 50 Cent's In the Club that had Dr. Dre, 50 Cent, and these had to be featured, and I like that I like the sense that 2 British women gave it the chance, because I did feel like 50 Cent was lacking, not originality, but lacking something only the British or the UK can bring. And so when this song in completion, I do like it a little bit more, especially from a girl's perspective. A woman's perspective, I love it. So, woman, no binary, I'm not sure. I'm gonna lay how she views herself, or okay, Burns identifies herself with their pronouns. But overall, I don't know. I just like the song a lot more. So I'm gonna give it an equal score of a 7 out of 10. But see, this is something I'm gonna come back to. So if you're not a very D4 message or perspective, you're probably not gonna like the song, and you're probably gonna like the 50 Cent version of In the Club. I like this more, especially if it's coming from a woman's perspective. I'm sorry. But I don't know, I like it. So we'll see you in the next episode. But I do think you should kind of give this a try if you want to. If you were a fan of the original In the Club, and you're gonna go in non-biased, I would definitely go listen to this remix of In the Club with Cat Burns. So